I think all of you know who I am, so I'm not going to introduce myself. Is that fair? Anybody says just that old guy up there? This particular presentation is an update of a very old presentation. That you probably recognize the PowerPoint backgrounds there as being one that was popular many years ago. But Echolink's been around for a long time. Just a FYI, when we first added Echolink to our repeater, back then our repeater trustee was just dead set against it. You're not hooking anything to my repeater. That might mess something up. And we finally convinced him to give it a try and let us do it, and it's been that way ever since. So I don't know. I'm not sure how long we've had Echolink up and running now, but I guess it's been 10 years or better, probably. I don't know. It's been a while. And we'll talk about how the connections work and all that just for grins. Probably most of you have used Echolink. You know more about it maybe than I do, but you probably don't know where some of the pieces live, which is part of what we'll talk about.
We link into it from,
I'm sorry?
we link into it from cruise ships.
Do you? Okay.
Linked into it from all over the world.
I'm not advancing. There we go. Okay, there it is. A little bit about what we're going to do with that thing. Okay. Okay. Got several of these diagrams like this that we're going to build upon. This is just taking it from the very basics right now. If we have two PCs with the Echolink software installed, they're talking to each other through the internet, no big deal. Like you would talk with anything else through the internet through two computers. Come on. Anyway, just for grins. Okay. Anyway, what is Echolink really? It's just another method of communicating through amateur radio. As Dave said, some people say, well, that's not real ham radio. You're going through the internet. That's true. But we can use it to expand ham radio a lot by using the internet. So that's not all bad, I think. It's just another mode to connect with. Let's just reach out to places we might not otherwise be able to get to. Because it does use the internet, as we've said several times. It's kind of a hardware, software team effort. You have a certain amount of software involved, and then hardware, depending on your computer, your tablet, or whatever else you're using. It does require an amateur radio license. To use Echolink, you have to register it, and you have to prove that you have a valid license in order to do that. And the station ID is assigned, normally will be your call sign. In the case of McKinney, the station ID is W5MRC/R for repeater. Okay, talk all around the world literally with this thing. It would allow people to, with just a computer, though, even if you don't have any kind of a radio, you can get with a computer with a headset. You can get onto Echolink and talk to any other place that has Echolink. Generally, it's pretty clear. Kind of like Dave said, it depends on how people have their equipment set up. There's some tests built into Echolink, into its software, so you can work with your settings to try to optimize them quite a bit. It is quite flexible. It works on just about anything. A computer of any kind, Mac, PC, Linux, iPads of all kinds, the Android tablets, Android phones all have apps for that makes it work. Also has a limited chatting capability. You can type in messages, you can send back messages back and forth in a limited basis. Whoops, did I do that? Okay, we'll just pick it up from there. Setting it up can be a little bit difficult. The beauty of it is if you're using a tablet or a phone, you are your own internet service as such. That is to say, you don't have to worry about sharing that connection with several other people versus in your home where you generally have a central router and then you have the TV connected to that router and you have the computer connected to that and various other things connected. There has to be a mechanism in place to direct the signal from the internet to whichever device it has to go to. And Echolink is a little picky about that. It requires some configuration. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. It's not terribly difficult if you know what you're doing. If you don't, there's lots of good videos out there that will help you do that, or call me and I can help you through it as well. It does take some kind of equipment. You got to have at least a computer or a tablet or a phone. And then, of course, if you have the RF link to it, you can go that route. Um, One of its problems is the latency. Generally speaking, I don't know if you've noticed on our nets on Sunday night, there's a little delay. We'll call for Echolink check-ins, and then there's a little delay, and then somebody will check in, and then there's another little delay before somebody else comes along. Or we'll say, Ron, how are you doing? And then there's a delay before he comes back. That's the latency of it. It takes a little while because of the way it's set up to make it work. By the way, Echolink is a very old process. It has not been updated a great deal in recent years. If you have multiple PCs in the same household, we get into that internet routing thing, which we're going to talk more about. You do need a good internet connection, though, good solid connection. It doesn't have to be a fast one, but it has to be solid. Okay, we're using voice over IP over the internet, of course. We connect to a proxy server, which I believe is in California, though I'm not absolutely sure about that. So basically, I will go from my house or from my cell phone through the internet to the proxy server in California, which will connect back to our Echolink system here, or whatever Echolink system I'm connecting to in the world. I'm called a node at that point. Now, my node can either be just my cell phone or my tablet or my PC, or with the case of a PC, it can be connected to a radio, which is what we have with our Echolink, obviously. That allows then that incoming audio signal that would normally just come to me to actually key the radio, transmit it to the repeater, which transmits it for everybody to hear. And then likewise, that same radio that did that transmission is listening and will send it back through the internet to whoever's connected out there. So we make this connection through there, we talk, and when we're finished, we disconnect, more or less. Anyway, it does its job. It works pretty well. And the audio didn't come through this. You're supposed to hear buzzing and all that, but that's okay. You get the ideas. There we go. Yeah. It gets the job done. It gets the job done. Okay, then we've added a little bit more to that previous diagram. Now we have a home unit over on the left, which has a radio in it, which can connect to a repeater, which is right above it. Of course, the cloud of the internet there is making everything connect. So we have all these different methods of going through so we can connect to different people. Now, when we're setting up Echolink, there's two modes for it. The sysop mode is what you're going to use if you're going to actually be the relay station, which is what I have at my house that makes our Echolink work. Mine is set up in sysop mode, which means it's intended to just receive the information, transmit it to the repeater, listen for the repeater, pick up the signal, and send it back through the internet. If I'm just doing a user like I'm just using my smartphone, then I'm just using user mode for that. I don't have to have a whole lot of interaction with that. The the sysop mode has a number of settings with it that you can set things on. You can set levels and do all kinds of crazy things with it to make it all connect together. So in this case, basically what they're saying is all these different people are connected together. So if the guy down here in the bottom, he's just using his home computer, that's all he has, going through the internet, going out to both the other stations, go to their radios, they go out to their repeaters, and from their repeaters out to the mobile and out to the handheld out there in the rest of the world, so everybody can talk to everybody as we've seen it work. Is there just a little delay in that? Please. You want me to just say next? Okay. All right. Okay, next. Is that next? There we go. Okay. So from the local PC or the smartphone out to that proxy server, which I believe is in California, which routes things back to wherever it's supposed to be going to. Node can be a PC, a smartphone, whatever. The computer can be hooked to a repeater if we want to have that done by another radio. And then we just do the reverse for it to all come back. Next. Little patience is a good thing. When you're setting it up, don't get in a hurry. This young lady's got in a little bit of a hurry, but such is life.
Excuse me, I was the party there. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Next. Okay, I don't know. It does take a little bit of patience sometimes working with it to get everything just the way you want it. What do you need? You need the smartphone, tablet, the PC, and a good internet connection. The actual software, the software is free. The latest version of the software was published in 2016, if that tells you anything. But it still works, so of course, that's what counts. If you're using a PC, then you need a microphone and speakers, obviously. If we're using our phone or our tablet, then we use the built-in microphone and speakers that are there. And then an interface of some sort. Now, the interface is a little bit of a tacky piece if you're going from the computer to the radio. The radio that we're using is a Kenwood radio that was built to accommodate Echolink. So I don't have to have a separate interface per se. I just plug some special cables onto that radio, plug them into the computer, into the microphone and the speaker jacks, and we're home clean with it. It makes it very simple to do that. If it were not that, if I were just using any radio, then I could use a little audio interface box there that would do that connection for me. But generally speaking, that's not a big deal. Next. Okay. First thing we have to do is register with the Echolink people in order to use this. Now, the reason for that is we know we're all hams, and we want to make sure that people have a call sign and they're legitimate hams. So when you go to ecolink.org to do this registration, anytime you're going to use Echolink, you've got to be registered with them because you've got to log in with a name and password. But anyway, when you initially go in, you've got to send them a copy of your license. Email a copy or attach a copy of your license for them to review and verify that you really are a ham operator. So you get that. You get your login name and ID all settled up with that. Download all the software or the app if you're using it on your phone or tablet. Enter your information, your password, and away you go. Again, if you're on a home network, you'll need to set some port pass-throughs in your router. Ports run from 0 to 65,535. And you can pick a particular port. In this case, you don't pick a particular port. You use the one Echolink specifies. But you go into your router and you say, if something comes in on this particular port, I want to route that signal to the Echolink computer. Otherwise, the signal comes in, it doesn't know where to go. It doesn't know how to get there. So we do this routing thing. Now, that's all set up in your router itself, in the configuring the router. It's not difficult. It just takes, like that other slide says, it takes a little patience to make it work. But it does work. And once you set it up, you set it, forget it, and you never have to mess with it again, unless you get a new router, of course. Anyway, once all that's all set up, you select if you're going to be a sysop or if you're going to be a user. And you're ready to connect. And once you're talking on the computer, you put the space bar to talk, space bar to disconnect. Most of our apps on our phones actually have a talk or a receive button. You just tap it back and forth to go back and forth. But it's not automatic. When you finish talking, you've got to tap the button to release it. Otherwise, you're tying up the world until the end of time. So that's just one of those little tidbits to remember. Next. Okay, and in case you're interested, those are the port assignments that it uses. 519899 UDP goes to the host PC, of course, and then 5200 TCP and 5201 TCP. And if you don't know what all those mean, don't sweat it. If we need to talk about it, we can talk about that later on. But you put those in your router, that lets you take care of everything. That also presumes that the computer that you're using for this in the household environment has a fixed IP address, a fixed internet address inside your house. If you're allowing that to be a randomly assigned IP, then this doesn't work because you send 5198 to 123.123.123.123, and tomorrow it changes to 156, then suddenly it doesn't work. So generally you will go into your PC and put a fixed IP address in your PC so it never changes. Just one of those little tidbits that keeps it consistent. Next. Once it's in there, in the actual software on the PC, there's a test button, and you can actually test it. You can talk and then hear what you sound like once you've talked into it, see if it works right. And there are volume and level settings you can adjust right there on the fly to make it sound the best that you can make it sound. There are also different proxy servers. Generally, the default one will work just fine, but there are a couple of others. If you need to change it, you can. And you listen to yourself, adjust it, and you should be good to go after that. Next. So you can talk to the world without a radio, just using the PC. If you want to do that, you can use it off your tablet or your cell phone and do that, of course. Join a net if there's a net going on somewhere. We do that every Sunday night. We have people who check in on our net. It's been interesting the last 2 or 3 weeks. We've had a couple of guys from Georgia checking in by Echolink. They've kind of become regulars for us at this point, which is pretty neat. And then, of course, you can communicate with your friends or other people wherever they happen to be. And if you're a technician, you can still do some DX by going that particular direction, which is kind of cool. Next. Okay. Hook it up, enjoy it, make it work. Just be careful what you buy, because things don't always work the way they're advertised to. Next. So be careful what you buy. I hope you won't run into anything like that. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Any thoughts? I think probably most of your old hats at Echolink. What I didn't tell you that I meant to tell you, just for grins, the Echolink computer and radio are both at my house, hooked to my internet. The club has an antenna up at the west end of my house that points to the repeater that establishes that connection. It's a Kenwood radio that has the special Echolink interface. It's set for low power because I don't need that much power just with a beam antenna to go from Allen to our repeater, of course. So that radio should last forever and a day. And it's been very, very reliable. It just works. I do reboot the Echolink computer about once every week or two, just because it's a good thing to do. And then, of course, occasionally Windows will come in and do an update and leave it at some screen saying, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And Echolink doesn't reload, so I have to watch out for that. It's still running on Windows 10. I don't have any plan to update it to Windows 11 at this point. Don't need to. We're not worried about people getting into it or whatever. It's firewall protected and all that, so I'm not overly concerned about that. We'll probably leave it on Windows 10 until that computer dies, whenever that is anyway, and then we'll do something else. But that's kind of it. Any questions about that? Going to be easy. Yeah. It's just one of those things. It's nice to have it on your phone, and it gives you another way to get into amateur radio.